I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The Teapot Dome scandal was probably the most significant presidential scandal.
When people think of politics, they hope for leaders devoted to public service. Yet history repeatedly shows many serving themselves instead. From greed and cover-ups to outright abuse of power, these scandals share one thing: deep damage to public trust and at times entire nations. So let's revisit some of modern history's most infamous political scandals. Number 1. Ferdinand Marcos, Philippines, 1965 to 1986. Ferdinand Marcos liked to call himself the Philippines' most decorated war hero, although most of his supposed medals turned out to be fake. Still, he became the country's 10th president in 1965. By 1972, halfway through his second term, he declared martial law.
The proclamation of martial law is not a military takeover,
claiming it was to stop a communist threat. What it really did was give him absolute power for more than a decade. The People Power Revolution finally pushed him out in 1986, and he fled to the US, living in luxury until his death in Hawaii. During his 21 years in office, the Philippines went deep into debt, wages fell, and poverty nearly doubled. At the same time, Marcos and his inner circle are believed to have stolen somewhere between $5 and $10 billion. They did it in almost every way imaginable: seizing private businesses, creating state monopolies, handing loans to cronies, raiding the treasury, skimming foreign aid, and taking kickbacks. Most of the money ended up hidden in shell companies, offshore accounts, or expensive US real estate. When the Marcos family fled, investigators found an insane stash in the presidential palace: over 1,000 pairs of Imelda Marcos's shoes and hundreds of handbags, sunglasses, and even parasols.
400 cars, 3,000 pairs of shoes for the ex-beauty queen wife.
US Customs also seized jewelry worth $21 million. Even now, the Philippines is still trying to recover the stolen wealth, though billions remain missing. Number 2. The Teapot Dome scandal.
The Teapot Dome scandal was probably the most significant presidential scandal.
United States, 1921 to 1923. Back in the early 1900s, America's Navy needed fuel reserves, so President Taft set aside oil-rich land for that purpose. Sounds smart, right? But when Warren G. Harding became president, he transferred control of some reserves, including Teapot Dome in Wyoming, to the Department of the Interior. His Secretary of the Interior, Albert B. Fall, secretly leased the oil rights to big oilmen Harry Sinclair and Edward Dohoney. In return, Fall got bribes worth what would be millions today. The problem was, he flaunted his sudden wealth a little too openly, and people got suspicious. Investigations followed, and eventually, in 1929, Fall was convicted of bribery, the first U.S. cabinet member to go to jail. Harding himself had already died in office, but the scandal still tainted his presidency forever. Number 3. Watergate, United States, 1972 to 1974. If you've ever wondered why scandals get the "gate" suffix, here's where it started. In June 1972, 5 men were caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate building. They were tied to President Nixon's re-election campaign, and money found on them linked directly back to his team. Instead of coming clean, Nixon's White House tried to cover it up. Reporters Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward of the Washington Post kept digging, and soon the story exploded. Nixon's secret tape recordings eventually revealed that he had been involved in covering things up as early as June 23, 1972. When the smoking gun tape came out in 1974, Nixon faced certain impeachment. Rather than be removed, he resigned as the only U.S. president ever to do so.
And so, Richard Milhouse Nixon has resigned as the 37th President of the United States.
His successor, Gerald Ford, pardoned him, but Nixon's reputation never recovered. Number 4. the Iran-Contra affair. United States, 1985 to 1987. On paper, this one makes no sense. During the 1980s, Iran was at war with Iraq.
September 1980, Iraq invades Iran and is still shaken by its Islamic revolution.
And the US had an arms embargo against Iran. But behind the scenes, Reagan's administration sold more than 2,000 missiles to Iran anyway. Why? Part of the deal was to get Iran's help in releasing American hostages in Lebanon. But there was another angle. Profits from those arms sales were secretly funneled to the Contras, a rebel group fighting Nicaragua's leftist government. The problem? Congress had specifically banned funding for the Contras because of their brutal human rights record. The whole thing blew open in 1986, leading to investigations and the Tower Commission report. Reagan claimed he didn't know the details, but his leadership style created the environment that allowed the scandal to happen. Even though he dodged direct blame, it left a dark mark on his presidency. Number 5. Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, United States, 1988 to 1999. Few political scandals have been as tabloid-ready as this one.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
In January 1998, President Bill Clinton told reporters, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky." Problem was, he did. Between 1995 and 1997, Clinton had an affair with Monica Lewinsky, a White House intern. When the truth came out, thanks to secret tapes made by Lewinsky's co-worker Linda Tripp, it snowballed. The Republican-controlled House impeached Clinton for perjury and obstruction of justice in December 1998. The Senate trial that followed didn't reach the 2/3 majority needed to remove him, so Clinton stayed in office. Still, the scandal badly damaged his image and even hurt Vice President Al Gore's chances in the 2000 election. Number 6. Zain al-Abidin Ben Ali, Tunisia, 1987 to 2011. Ben Ali came to power in a bloodless coup and ruled Tunisia for 23 years, always winning elections by more than 90%. On the surface, the economy grew, poverty rates dropped, and Tunisia was even hailed as one of Africa's lions for its progress. But behind the numbers, corruption was everywhere. His family and inner circle allegedly stole between $1 and $2.6 billion, often by seizing businesses and monopolizing profits. At one point, insiders were grabbing more than 20% of Tunisia's private sector earnings. Everything collapsed in December 2010 when a young street vendor named Mohammed Bouazizi set himself on fire after being harassed by police. His death sparked the Arab Spring, and within a month, Ben Ali fled to Saudi Arabia. Later investigations revealed his clan had amassed $13 billion in assets. Number 7. Slobodan Milosevic, Serbia and Yugoslavia, 1989 to 2000. Milosevic rose to power in Serbia and then Yugoslavia, overseeing brutal wars in Bosnia, Croatia and Kosovo. International courts indicted him for war crimes and crimes against humanity, making him the first head of state to face such charges since World War II.
Slobodan Milosevic is arrested after a standoff outside his Belgrade villa.
On top of the bloodshed, Milosevic and his network are believed to have stolen billions. Some investigations suggested as much as $4 billion was taken, much of it laundered through offshore companies. Even state assets, like the National Phone Company, were sold off, with huge chunks of money mysteriously disappearing. Milosevic was eventually ousted in 2000, arrested and sent to The Hague for trial, but he died of a heart attack in 2006 before the proceedings ended. Number 8. Sani Abacha, Nigeria, 1993 to 1998. Abacha came to power through Nigeria's 9th military coup. Although his rule was marked by repression and human rights abuses, the country's economy actually improved on paper. Debt went down, inflation dropped, and foreign reserves grew. But Abacha was also busy looting the state. He and his family are believed to have stolen between $2 and $5 billion, much of it through direct withdrawals from the central bank. The money was hidden in accounts across Europe and offshore havens. After his sudden death in 1998, foreign governments started freezing and returning stolen assets.
More than $458 million that former military head of state, General Sani Abacha.
To date, over $2.5 billion has been recovered, but billions more may never be found. Ironically, in 2014, Nigeria gave him a posthumous award for his contribution to the nation. Number 9. Mobutu Sese Seko, Zaire, 1965 to 1997. Mobutu ruled Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, for 32 years. He seized power in the 1960s and kept it through a mix of patronage, military force, and intimidation. Although the country was rich in natural resources, corruption and mismanagement under Mobutu led to debt crises, hyperinflation, and massive poverty. Meanwhile, he lived like royalty, flying in French chefs by Concorde to bake him birthday cakes. He is thought to have stolen between $4 and $5 billion, about the same as the country's foreign debt at the time. When he was finally overthrown in 1997, he fled into exile and died soon after. Attempts to recover his wealth have mostly failed, with only small amounts in the Swiss banks ever traced. Number 10. Muhammad Suharto, Indonesia, 1967 to 1998. If there's one leader who takes the crown for corruption, it's Suharto of Indonesia. He ruled for 31 years and oversaw huge economic growth. Poverty dropped, life expectancy rose, and Indonesia became far more developed under his new order. But all that progress came with rampant corruption. Suharto and his family controlled monopolies, handed out sweetheart contracts, and turned state charities into their personal piggy bank. By some estimates, they stole between $15 and $35 billion, making Suharto one of the most corrupt leaders in history. When the Asian financial crisis hit in 1997 and 1998, the economy collapsed, protests erupted, and Suharto was forced to resign. Although he faced charges later, he always avoided trial, dying in 2008. Indonesia has recovered some money, but most of it is still gone. And that's that for today's video. Hit like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.